Who do you have coming out of this game and why?
I'm going to go with the Packers on this one. This game's a little bit tricky for me because this game's not being played in the States. It's being played over in London because the start time's at
Oh,
9:30 in the
that's
morning.
right. It's
So
not Lambeau.
this is going to be kind of an interesting game just because of the time difference that the teams are going to have to experience in this game. But I am favoring the Packers, and for a couple of reasons. When I was watching Aaron Rodgers go up against the Patriots last week, granted, the Packers didn't have their best performance. It was enough to get by. And there were definitely some times where there was some discord between Aaron Rodgers and essentially the entire offensive personnel, whether it was the offensive line or it was the receivers. And really the biggest thing when it comes to the Packers is whether or not these young wide receivers can step up and rise to the occasion. And at times they have, and at times they haven't. Dobbs has been one where at times he's looked pretty solid. Christian Watson had had some moments, but then, you're on the flip side and they have some drops or they're turning the ball over. It's just there's a lot of inconsistency when it comes to these young wide receivers that the Packers have. But, when you have Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb, at least you have some stability to be able to bring to that wide receiving core. And I think that's going to be a point of emphasis in this game with Aaron Rodgers. I think he's going to just focus on being able to distribute that football to guys that he could trust. I think Randall Cobb, Allen Lazard, and Robert Tonyan are going to be at the top of that list. And I wouldn't be surprised if, Aaron Jones gets the rock probably 15 to 20 times and tries to establish some sort of foothold in this game against the Giants. And now, granted, I think it's going to be a difficult task because the Giants defense has been stout this year so far. Looking at the games that they've had, the only game where they've really kind of given up any sort of offense to the team they're going up against has maybe been against the Cowboys and the Titans. But outside of that, they've looked stellar on the defensive side of the ball. And I wouldn't be surprised if that continues going into this game. So when I look at the Giants have definitely had success early on, especially with Saquon. Saquon's had quite a resurgent return in the first couple games of the year. And hopefully he stays healthy just because I love the fact that Saquon's getting his touches and he's making the most of it. And I definitely think that there's some opportunity for him to be able to run the ball effectively. It's just, I think that Packers defense is actually pretty solid so far. And at times they've been able to slow down the run game. And I think that there's a very good chance that the Packers can do that in this one. And I just don't have a lot of faith that Daniel Jones is going to be able to carry that Giants offense over Green Bay's defense. And Green Bay's defense has looked sporadically good at times. Yet you look to last week and they kind of stunk it up against a third string quarterback in Bailey Zapp. So the Packers defense is up and down too. And there's definitely some opportunities for Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, and that offense to exploit that defense to get some points on the board. But I just don't think it's going to be enough. I think the Packers just have enough to get by the Giants in this one. I think it's going to be a relatively close game. I wouldn't be surprised if this game is decided by 3 or 4 points when it's all said and done. But I am going to say the Packers win this one by the score of 24-20, and then they would improve to 4-1 on the season.
I'd love to pick the Giants. I would. But the fact that I'm looking at the injury report right now, and it being, of course, Friday, and the final report will come out, I believe, if not tomorrow, it'll come out. Well, it's not tomorrow. If it doesn't come out today, it'll come out on Saturday. They have no receivers. Kadarius Toney's out. Kenny Galladay's out. Darius Slayton's out. Sterling Shepard tore his ACL. Wendell Robinson is questionable. That leaves Daniel Jones with basically no one to throw the football to. And I'm not discrediting any other wide receivers that are on the roster, but again, if you don't have at least nameable players, the chemistry is going to be limited because of the reps that you have not had all season because of the other receivers that have taken that opportunity. That's going to lean too much pressure on Saquon. We know that Saquon's already hurt, has been hurt. We know that Saquon is obviously battling the naysayers and of course the critics of saying, like he's washed or, he's going to get injured at whatever point that is. They're going to have to lean on Daniel Jones's running capabilities as well as Saquon. And without the two of them, with a stout, or should I say decently stout, Green Bay defense, it's going to provide them with a challenge. Now, I will say that the Giants defense, as Kyle alluded to, has shown up when they've needed to, and they've done what they needed to do up to this point. So I will give them credit, and I will say that this will unfortunately be another ugly game because both offenses don't necessarily impress me. If I had to give an edge, I will give an edge because of names, not performance. Aaron Rodgers is better than Daniel Jones. I think that the combination of AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones are better than Saquon basically being the only source of offense. I will give Green Bay the edge. I will agree with Kyle. It'll probably be around 21-17, maybe even 20-24, like he said. But this is going to be one of those ugly, tight games where whoever makes the first mistake is probably going to be the team that unfortunately loses. But yeah, no, I think that Aaron Rodgers is going to find a way to just carve up the Giants defense just enough. And by carve up, I mean find some holes, maybe put some creative plays along with Matt LaFleur's offense and figure out some ways to kind of manipulate that Giants secondary. They just signed Landon Collins back. I don't know if he's even going to be eligible to play because it just happened today, but the Giants desperately need secondary help. They desperately need receiver depth, and of course, outside of their left tackle, I always forget his name, man. It's like Andrew something. I think Andrew Thomas. He's one of the better left tackles in football. God, I wish he was a Colt at this point. Um, outside of that offensive lineman, I really don't see New York being able to stop the pass rush of Green Bay either. So I will give Green Bay the edge ever so slightly, but another snooze fest of a game personally.